because, you get an idea in your head that this guy's not bluffing, and then you start making all these folds, and each time you fold, you pat yourself on the back saying, I just made another good fold to this guy who doesn't bluff. You never see the evidence to change your mind.
Right, you don't get the reinforcement.
Raise up to 3,000.
And Sammy with the 7 deuce.
Can see some action here. It's a good flop for him.
Must bet.
5,000. Fold.
Give it. Oh, man.
Sammy collects another 10K.
Bonus for 2-7.
So sick.
It is a fun element. You almost feel like all holes in the game should have that part to them.
Yeah, I wouldn't object.
Quarter of a mil. Is that pounds or dollars? Pounds. Really? Jesus.
That could be the most expensive watch I've ever heard of. 250,000 pounds worth, he says.
That is not a cheap watch.
What, the time was wrong? Huh? Time was wrong on it or something?
Yeah, I'm like, we're not moving. I'm like, this is wrong.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, for that kind of money, you'd think it would come with someone to wind it for you.
You'll see Sammy's raising fully 20% less than Tom from the button here, and that translates into a lot fewer hands won, in particular a lot fewer hands won before the flop.
I've had to be much stronger in the play. I've had to focus a bit more. He's coming over the top of me sometimes. I just need to be a bit stronger, which I said to myself, and I put it in my head, look, what happened, what goes in, I mean, there was a queen, I had queen jack, I think, on a 6 queen 3 board, and he made a massive raise on the turn when the deuce came on, and I didn't know where I was. I mean, I was thinking about shoving over the top, but the bet was so strong. At the time I wasn't feeling too good that I'd have them on that, with the top pair. Lee Jackson, okay, kicker, heads up, but I still wasn't comfortable. He could have paired up, he could be playing queen deuce suited, queen whatever. But I've got a feeling I had the winning hand, and if it was a bluff, it was a strong bluff, and I couldn't call. I just couldn't call.
Welcome back to the Les Ambassadors, one of London's most exclusive and distinguished casinos for the Full Tilt Poker Durrrr Million Dollar Challenge. Poker star Tom Dwan has a formidable reputation, winning millions of dollars worldwide. He issued this challenge: bring $500,000 to the table and play heads-up poker. Tonight, Londoner Sammy Any2 George accepted this contest in an effort to beat the world-renowned Durrrr in this mighty heads-up clash. After a break from the game, they are ready to get the cards back in play.
Well, they just come back from the dinner break, guys. Now, Sammy made a little bit of a comeback going into the break. What do you think his mindset is?
I think that he's a little frustrated because the major pots went against him, and he's looking for reassurance that he hasn't played the early session badly. I've just spoken to him and said, just keep concentrating, focus on the game, don't get distracted by what's going on around you, by the buzz in there, And Sammy's disappointed with himself maybe for passing when he had the queen. He's been bluffed a couple of times. It's just a question of refocusing and coming again.
Because, it was a pretty big scene down there. Did you see the trays of food?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Sammy suddenly somebody mentioned lunch about 3 hours before the dinner break, and Sammy suddenly couldn't play a hand for 20 minutes. He was so distracted by the thought of eating. And these distractions are a worry. And also, I think going into the dinner break, he certainly looked like he was on the ropes. And I think the break arrived in a good time for him. He came up to me during the break and he talked to me about that Queen Jack hand, to be honest with you, he started explaining to me about his train of thought, and quite often when Sammy describes a hand to me, he tends to get the cards in the wrong order, or he gets the suits wrong or something like that, and so I thought that this is not a really good time to criticise him or to say that he did anything wrong. I just said to him, well, that was a very tricky spot and I think he probably did the right thing, because I don't want to upset Sammy at this time. And I think, this break arrived right in the nick of time for him, and they had a good hour and a half or so just to get away from it, chill out. Some friends of Sammy's arrived during the break, and I think it's a better break for Sammy than it was for Tom.
He's got to go back into the play now and be fresh and say, this is starting from zero. Don't think about the score in the match. Because he starts going, I want to be at this point, I want to get back to this. That just play every hand on its merits.
Yeah, because Dwan is a bit of a machine. I mean, he's never results-oriented. So Sammy's got to go in there and get it on.
And it is the thing about a heads-up match, isn't it, Isaac? It's so intense. You need to clear your head every once in a while.
Absolutely, yeah. When I'm playing a big heads-up match online, I'll take a break every 40 minutes or so just to get up and stretch my legs, walk around a little bit.
I saw that big pot earlier with the Queen Jack, and so you can see there is every chance for Sammy to even here. I mean, big pots will happen.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, you take that $250,000 away. Get Sammy lost with the Ace King, and geez, there's not much in this besides that.
No, it's really been quite close.
Check. 5,000.
Interesting check on the flop by Sammy.
5.
Not the first time we've seen him check back with top pair. I think that he's been trying to trap Tom a little, and I'm not sure it's been working that well. We haven't really seen Tom just fire off 2 big bluffs on the turn river just because Sammy's checked back the flop.
No, and in fact, I mean, with those deuces, I guess, you said under pairs are hard to play, but to me that would have been a spot where you might have thought, hey, these deuces could be way ahead right now.
Now we're playing in pounds.
Oh,
Right?
never way ahead. They're going to get counterfeited on a 5 or a 7. And
anything.
Sammy's got 2 overcards
Right.
with any hand other than something like an ace deuce, but
Raise 3,000.
You're making me hate small pairs.
if you don't flop a set, they can be awfully tough to play heads up.
Raise and call. And 1 player with bottom pair.
You look like you're really hoping there were 3 different cards out there. That's why you were looking at it so long. Is there really an ace and a queen and a 6? I wanted a 7 and a 5 and a deuce.
Jeez, he's nearly psychic.
Check.
Still on a 7, 5, and deuce.
Wow.
And that's a pretty good river for Sammy. Let's see if he overbets again.
Right, been betting about 15 in this spot, hasn't he?
Yeah.
$10,000.
It's a very 7 deuce looking bet. Very 7 deuce looking bet.
Huh. Saying to himself, he wouldn't bet with a 9 here. He wouldn't
Especially
bet with
not
a
so big. Pays him off.
And
Sucks.
it doesn't surprise you, does it?
Not a whole lot. By making such a big bet, Sammy says, I've got a big hand or a bluff. And he might have a bluff often enough to make that a good call. Especially if, like Tom said, he's particularly worried about getting bluffed by 7 deuce. He loses an extra 10,000 when he does.
Right. Oh, right. Talking about that, the sort of the passive play versus the
Raise 3,000.
over-aggressive, and I guess that style that Tom has, sometimes just check and call and stuff like that, was hands like that when you flop top pair, queen, jack. The reason you do check call rather than check raise is because you don't want to open up those weird spots.
Yeah, you don't want to get yourself in a situation where your opponent either has a better hand or a bluff. You're always just guessing in spots like that. You want to leave yourself in a situation where your opponent might bet for value on 2 streets with pocket 7s or something like that. And
I feel like we've seen an identical hand earlier. Sammy led on the flop of top pair, and Tom just insta-folded the ace-queen. This time he peeling off.
Yeah, in the last hand, a couple things were different. I believe it was like a 9-8-2 or 9-8-3 board with a flush draw, so it was a much more coordinated board. And then secondly, Sammy overbet on the flop when he had the king-9 in the previous hand. He bet around double pot, if I remember correctly. So both the drier board, where in particular on the 9-8 whatever board, if Tom hits a queen on the turn, that also completes a straight for Jack 10. Whereas if Tom hits a queen on that board, it's almost always going to be the best hand.
A lot of stuff to think about.
Yeah.
And this sort of an indication that Tom is calling every 3-bet. 3-6 offsuit?
Wow. Yeah, I mean,
You're folding this a lot of times.
I would say so, yeah. Don't get dealt a hand worse than 3-6 off very often, so I think it's safe to say he's literally never folding to a 3-bet.
You like the Jack 5 suited?
Yeah, I can get behind Jack 5 suited. But 6-3 off, that's a pretty ambitious call.